let's review this for just a second. You see, first, if you had two, then you'd have to have one having something or being somewhere or being something that the other one wasn't. But the one that wasn't that would be, of course, restricted. It would be restricted to a way of acting or restricted to a particular case, in which case it wouldn't be compatible with all existence, but only with some existence, in which case it wouldn't be pure acting power. It would only be a restricted acting power. And then, of course, it would need something else to bring it into being. Do you realize essentially what St. Thomas has done here? In 3 steps, St. Thomas has shown, first, you need at least one uncaused cause. Then he turned around and showed you that an uncaused cause is a very peculiar thing. An uncaused cause would have to be pure acting power because it couldn't be the cause of itself. And if it were pure acting power, do you realize what he just did here? He's trying to tell you that pure acting power couldn't be just restricted to a way, because pure acting power would have to be the cause of everything else that is. It'd have to be compatible with every kind of existence that there was. And the only way for it to be compatible with every kind of existence that it is for it to be pure without a restriction, which can contradict another restriction. Now, we're going to talk about that in an upcoming unit under the principle of simplicity. But for right now, all you need to see is existing like an electron is not the same as pure acting existence. Acting like a proton is not like pure acting existence. It's only limited to a particular way. And then, of course, in the third instance, he shows that it has to be one. It has to, because if you're going to have two, you're going to have a difference. If you're going to have a difference, it's going to be restricted either to a way of acting, restricted to a location, restricted in some way in order to keep that difference between the two objects. Now, if you're still following me, let's review, because St. Thomas Aquinas has just shown that at least one uncaused cause has to exist. That uncaused cause must be unrestricted, that is to say pure acting power, and that pure acting power must be one. What do we call an absolutely unique, that is to say one and only one, unrestricted, pure acting power, which is the cause of everything else that is? We call that God. Now, what I want to show you here is, of course, that this can be very, very much explicated. In the next 2 units, we're going to explicate each one of these points. But what I want you to see is this initial insight of St. Thomas Aquinas, because then we can ground our next units in explaining each one of these things in detail. But for right now, I want to review this, because I want you to see that there can be one and only one pure, unrestricted acting power, which is the cause of all else that is. We can flesh that out in the next units, but I want you to see it now. Let's take point number 1. There has to be at least one uncaused cause. Why? Because an infinite number of caused causes equals 0. Cause number 1 depends on cause number 2, which depends on cause number 3. But 1 is 0 without 2, 2 is 0 without 3, 3 is 0 without 4, ad infinitum. Add up an infinite number of zeros, that is to say, things which are 0 without something else, and all you get are zeros, and those zeros sum total to 0. You have no existence in the series at all. Therefore, you're going to have at least one thing that isn't dependent on something else outside of itself for its existence. And that thing we'll call an uncaused cause. Point number 2 in the summary. Again, just try and get this concept. We'll explain it in the next units. But the key thing to remember is whatever is an uncaused cause cannot be the cause of itself. Because then it would have to be before it was being in order to make itself be, which is a contradiction. And therefore we know that that's going to have to be a pure, unrestricted acting power. It's going to have to be compatible, as we'll see in the next unit, with everything that is. And if it's compatible with everything that is, it cannot be restricted to a particular way or to a particular location. And third, it has to be one or unique. And the reason is because if you're going to have 2 of anything, you're going to need a difference between the one and the other. Some difference. Otherwise, they're the self, same, and one. If you have a difference between the one and the other, something is going to have to be restricted between those two. Restricted to a location, restricted to a way of acting, in order for the one not to be the same as the other, in order to maintain the difference. And therefore, if one of them is a restricted entity, restricted to a particular way, it could not be a pure acting power. It cannot be pure acting existence. It would have to be just a way, some finite way of existing, in which case it could not be an uncaused cause. We'll be explaining all of these in the upcoming units, and so I look forward to working with you then. Thank you.